as Africa's leading and longest-running contemporary art fair will launch this week. The FNB Art Joburg's mandate is to sustainably support and grow the continent's contemporary art market. Following 2 years without a physical fair, the art fair will return to the Sandton Convention Centre to bring you the best from the continent's contemporary art world. To tell us more on what we can expect at this year's edition, we are now joined via Zoom by Mandla Sibeko, who is the Managing Director of the FNB Art Fair. Mr. Sibeko, thank you so much for your time on the agenda this morning. So now, after a 2-year break, talk to us. I'm sure you guys have already pulled out all the stops to ensure that the fair lives up to its values. Talk to us about, how you're going to ensure that it still carries the same mandate and values as it did before.
Absolutely. Good morning. Thank you so much. We're very excited to return, as you can imagine. Every single plan that we put out on the table was stopped. We tried to come up with plans and everything else that we had done in the last 2 years didn't quite live up to actually having a physical fair. So we're quite excited to be returning. The return allows us to kind of go back to the work that we had started. Just before COVID, we had relaunched the fair itself and rebranded it as FNB Art Joburg. And the aim was really to kind of find a way of being rooted in Johannesburg. Johannesburg being such a vibrant city with so many people from all over the world who actually live here, and actually people from all over the continent. So we wanted the fair to really be reflective of the kind of community that we have become in Johannesburg. So we're very excited. We have loads of different sections in the fair. What we found with the old editions of the FNB Art Fair was that we'd become too cluttered. So we're going for a much more leaner approach in terms of the fair. I personally don't like trade shows. So the aim of this is that it's a very much more curated experience when you arrive into the fair. It should leave you inspired in terms of learning about art. And obviously being in South Africa and being on the continent, there are not a lot of museums and institutions where people could learn about contemporary art. So the art fair plays that role as well. So with the solo sections, there'll be over 8-9 big solo sections of artists that singular artists, so that people can actually focus, as well as obviously presentations of the many different artists across the different galleries. The one thing I can say is that the representation that's coming from the galleries is very reflective of the continent. A lot of them carry basically the best artists who are coming from anywhere else on the continent. So it should be a very excited, very vibrant weekend.
I know you actually just spoke to me about, my next question, where I was about to ask, how has the fair grown? Because I know that you've made some changes just before COVID, as you've actually also alluded earlier. Talk to us about how you feel, this fair has grown from strength to strength.
Well, look, the fair itself was pioneering in many ways. It was the first fair in Africa that could bring collectors, as well as allow for exhibitors and for the community and artists to meet together. So over time, I think it was around the 10th or 11th edition, we started to see that there's been quite a lot of interest in African art from around the world, finally. 15 years ago, nobody was interested. So we feel very proud that as Johannesburg, we led the way in making sure that we recognize the artists who are coming from this part of the world and obviously Africa. It has really grown in the sense that we've seen the content really change to becoming more Pan-African. I think early on, a lot of the representations were very much South Africa focused. So when you go through the different booths and the different galleries, you'll see that most of them are flying the flag for the rest of the continent, which is really exciting because we often talk about cohesion, social cohesion. So I think the art world has just gotten perfectly right. And it's very natural. It's been there for a long time. But at the same time, the fair has improved on its quality. I think you'll see that the way that the show is curated is of the highest standards. We want to make sure that when you're coming in, it must not be any different to any experience that you may have had in Europe or anywhere else in the world. But what we're finding is that most of those artists who are represented, who are being showcased in the fair, are represented now internationally, and obviously their price point is quite high. We wanted to make sure that we pay respect to them on African soil and celebrate them here versus celebrating them in Europe or in the US.
The celebration must start at home, as charity begins at home indeed. So talk to us about what this particular fair means to artists, just briefly, Mr. Sibeko, because we're coming from a global pandemic and things are now slowly starting to open up.
So the fair is, it means a lot to it's the only platform where we really get the communities really coming. Quite a lot of people don't understand how the art ecosystem actually works. There's quite a lot of players in it. So what it does do for artists, it allows them their works to be directly put up and for buyers to actually purchase. A couple of years ago, we sold over 48 million rands worth of work at the fair itself. We don't announce our prices in terms of our sales anymore going forward, but it really is an important platform, and Johannesburg continues to be an important platform. So we hope that people who are living here and people who are looking into the catalogs as the exhibition goes live are able to support and continue to buy African artists. Quite a lot of the sales dynamics have changed. So you're not only getting buyers who are actually here physically at the fair, you're actually getting buyers around the world who cannot wait for certain artists to be exhibited so they can also digitally make a purchase. So we're doing both. So some of those changes that have happened is that we have to be as strong online through an artsy platform, as well as, and obviously the galleries send digital catalogs around to buyers around the world. So yeah, so it's I think it's also really important for African artists to be showcased at home. So this means really a lot for them, versus them being in Europe, where it's a very different audience.
All right. So Mandla Sibeko there is Managing Director of the FNB Art Fair. Thank you so much very indeed for your time.